When I design lifestyle changes for people, one of the biggest things that I have to repeat is, are you grounded? Or how do you ground yourself? Some people will understand what I mean, but many people will say, I don't get it. And I think it's valid because in school, we're not really taught how to ground yourself. Especially nowadays where religion is separated from school, it's hard to, or it's actually, there's no practice of relaxation, calming, meditation. When we take religion out of school, you definitely have the removal of prayer. And I don't, with any form of religion, there's always going to be some form of prayer or mantra or repetition. In Catholicism, it's going through confessional. When you repent, you're told by the priest, after you've asked for forgiveness, to say this many Hail Marys and this many Our Fathers. And it usually is an amount that, I don't know how they come up with, the priest comes up with it, but usually it's about a 10-minute challenge to repeat those amount of prayers. And my thinking is that during that 10 minutes, you can actually get to the point of, because you repeat those same prayers over and over again, just like the rosary, you get to the point of kind of drowning out the external environment. You're in a pew where you're on your own, you're looking at the altar, there's nobody else there, there's silence, and you just repeat the prayer. You repeat the mantra, you repeat the words. And after a while, you kind of go through such a memory of going through those words, doing them fast, getting them over with, that you forget about everything else. When you forget about everything else after that 10 minutes, then you're in silence. And suddenly, that creative idea, that self, that thing that's resonating in most of us when we're at our best for developing an idea, that little time or window of time is met. And that sometimes is the best time when you reflect upon your ideas or about what happened and you come up with a solution. A lot of people, designers, inventors will come up with their best ideas when they wake up. That's a form of silence. Sometimes when you wake up you have a dream, you try to write down your dream, or during that time of the day when you haven't thought about the bills, haven't gotten into traffic, you haven't been to work, your best creative mind is allowed to take off. And sometimes with all this distraction, our external environment coming in, our chores for the day, our list that we have to do, it's sometimes very hard unless you put everything into an algorithm and you kind of make a list. It's very hard to let that creative self come out. So when I talk about getting grounded, I talk about some form of getting away from it all and just quieting down. The easiest form of doing that is the 4-7-8 breath routine that I talk about and you've seen in other videos. Sometimes it's a very basic form, but it's easy to come back to. And there's no relationship to any spiritual or religious intention. It's just taking the breath that you have and dividing it into 3 stages. And you can see that in the video. Some people need more than that. I have patients who go through transcendental meditation. I have patients that go through mantra recitation. I have patients that go not only through meditation in the form of yoga practice, but go deeper into it. It doesn't matter what form of, or how you get to the relaxation phase. The intention is that you have to develop a practice. Just like any athleticism, it takes practice. You can't just put on sneakers and do a 5K. You can't just put on sneakers and do a marathon. You have to practice before you get to that summit. And even with meditation or grounding, it takes a practice. The only thing I ask of my patients is to find something that will resonate with you, that will be sustainable. If you look at my playlists on nature and meditation, you'll see that I film 10-minute increments of just nature, because that's probably the easiest thing you can kind of listen to without being intentionally driven to go anywhere. If you sit here for 10 minutes, the first 3 minutes will be a little tough because you think, I got a lot of things to do. And then the chores in your mind go through, and then where you're supposed to be goes through your mind. But when you get over that in the last 7 minutes, hopefully with most people, you then pick up the sound of the grass with the wind, you pick up the insect sounds, you pick up the distant sounds of weather or maybe traffic. But once you start to hone in on that, you've forgotten about the high pressures of today's society, your to-do lists. And when you get into that little increment of time, that last 7 minutes, that's when serotonin comes out, that's when oxytocin starts to be produced, and that's when epinephrine, cortisol, adrenaline decrease. When you can get to that little window of time, then that is the best time that your cells are allowed to fight cancer, prevent heart attack, improve on regeneration, take care of back spasm and pain. During that time, muscles relax. During that time, digestion is better. Everything works better. It's not only just with having to take a breath and watch and listen. It involves all the portions of each and every cell that are responsible for longevity. When you're given that opportunity, not only do you have to have building blocks in nutrition and exercise and be fit, but you also have to have the building blocks of healing to actually get to a level where you're kind of bulletproof to disease. No one will ever tell you that you can be 100% bulletproof against cancer, heart attack, stroke, car accidents. But you can certainly improve your chances of getting to 90 to 100 years of age with as little medicines and surgical intervention as possible. And I believe that includes eating, that includes activity, and that includes some form of thinking or a change in the way you practice grounding. That's my idea about grounding. That's my idea about how you can introduce a practice to your lifestyle. And it doesn't take all day. It just takes something in the morning and something committed at night. You can start with 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes at night, and you can build. But the idea is you have to find something sustainable for you. Not everybody will like the 4-7-8 breath technique. Not everybody will like watching my nature videos. Not everybody will like meditative hiking or walking, but it gives you an option and it gives you a place to start. The bottom line is that if you don't have any good practice, that you should develop it. And to develop it, you got to think outside the box. If you've seen me, then I usually tell you that within 30 days of seeing me, coming in for a visit with me, something of an answer will pop up. And if you can kind of follow that instead of ignoring it, it might be something that is designed for you. But the idea is you have to realize it's there. Usually with all those distractions that we go through in everyday life, you kind of are so narrow-minded, you kind of miss the trail. You kind of continue on your usual route, which could lead to disease. Not necessarily will be the best, healthiest way in your life, but if you take off the blinders, you'll see some of these side trails that might give you the opportunity to wind up with a better way of life later on, for you or for other people. But just keep an open mind. And when I say grounded, it doesn't mean you're getting grounded or punished. It just means you have to have some form of practice.